Hi everyone, hope you're good. I would like to welcome you in the next part whereby we're trying to grab the concept behind, not only the concept but also the practical things, practical concepts about the what you call JSF as a framework working on to implement what called MVC model and the controller. I've just done with just having some brief information about what do you mean hypertext transfer protocol, ULL, the front-end language we're going to use, the back-end one. Like for me, I'm just implementing Java. So we come up with the JSF where just implement some information about it. We just done the previous part by the configuration for the NetBean and so on. It can be able to execute and deploy our Java application, our web application by using Tomcat and then be deployed and be accessed wherever. When we just connect to the network, can be accessed even outside of the network. Great. Now, after having this kind of the information, we're going to continue. We can see we have that. Actually, we have a servlet behind our inside of the controller. For the JSF, it has that kind of the capability, whereby it's going to know exact the request. Like if I use the URL, it's going to know exact the request I'm requesting from to be rendered on my web browser. That's all, nothing else. So here we go. It does now tackle this one. So here we go. We just execute this one. We have just run the file, and then have seen how we just what's going on behind the scene, whereby we just have this one. When we just refresh, nothing else, we just see this kind of the hello to the web text session. So now the thing we're going to work on this one, we're going to try to see the beginning things, whereby you're going to know exactly what's going to on, so that you can be able to implement everything. Because this one is for the beginner version, it's on beginner level. That means you know exactly what's going to happen. I mean, what you're doing behind. So we do have on the view that we have web pages, we have the index.html. If we say this is going to be like a student registration app, if we need a student registration, what the data do we need actually? Some of the data we just need for the student. If we need a student, let us say for the student, for our student, clicking on student management, student registration application. This kind of the student registration application, it holds some data from here. This kind of some data, what do you mean? Like we need some abstract. I mean, a real example, they're going to a class, they're going to hold different data. So we need a student. This kind of the student should have some information. For some of them is going to be public, some of them is going to be private, so on. Under the web, and when you're applying what you call modeling and design, there's something you need to implement. Okay, for this kind of the student, of course, student should have, the first one should have what you call, should be a private somehow. A student should have first name, should have names, of course, should have names. The names can be decomposed into two, where I can have first name, can have also last name. Also, a student should have, it has take something simple things so that we can move on, then we move on. So also student can, after have first name, last name, can have email, it can have many more that can have like an ID and so on. Those are some data that can grab for the end user. I mean, for the student, the student can have date of birth, also he or she can have national identification, can have means national. We just put exactly the thing that are being real things that represent this guy. Apart for the first name, last name, national ID, identification, we can, for the student ID, that would be great, but you know, when we're just registering, this kind of the ID is being generated automatically behind the scene. Also, we can grab some, let us try to have the first name, last name, and national identification, and even you can ask him to put her age, and then move on. Let us have 4 of them, but let us start with implementing names ID, age, even you can have email and so on. So names, national ID, age, let us to have those things enough. And then we come up the DOB, we convert them in, we deal with the data and so on later on. So here we go. Now when we come here, we can come here, let us go to the ManagedBean project. If we want to make this kind of the project, the first thing, let us create a new page under the web page. Right click on this one, let us click. You can see we have JSF page. If you don't able to view the JSF page, come here under the other, you go to the web. Under the web, you can see we have JSF page. Then click next, and then put the name you wish for this kind of the JSF. Let us say registration. Let us call it registration, nothing else, then hit finish. So this one is going to generate these things by default. We can say this one is going to be registration page. Actually, under the title, you should have title always, because JSF, it is using some behind the scene, there's some JavaScript that are being executed automatically, so that this kind of the head and so on board, or this kind of the XML will be able, you know, exactly to execute those kind of the file, to know what to land, what the parameters am I going to get for the get parameters and so on. You know, those you will remember that the JSP we do have that kind of the get request parameters, but this one, it makes them by using that kind of the servlet that will be able to handle the HTTP request and the response automatically. It's not exactly behind the scenes. So that's the reason why I'm going to use HTML tags. Do you know the HTML tags by default? We can have header one, just type h1, hit enter. You can say student registration page. You can go ahead, you apply some styles. We do have 3 types of the styles, mean CSS. We can have inline CSS. Those are the tags. Like inline CSS can be this one, or you can have, say, style. We say, for example, underline. We can have the underline. There will be font style, font declaration, sorry, text declaration. You can say it's going to be underline. That means we can add some underline on this kind of the student registration page. This is what you call inline styles or CSS. So let us leave this one for now on. We don't have to apply this kind of the CSS, but also you can have what you call under the header. Also you can have some styles for itself, like a tag for the style, and then you do implementation for it, and then you move on. So this way you can do different things by putting HTML under the XML is going to work, nothing else. Okay, this is when you want to apply what you call, this is when you want to apply if you wish to comment under the easiest one, you can use control plus forward, like this way. You put something, then you control plus forward slash. Let me just comment. Let me write this one here. You can just write this one here. How to comment. For comment under XHTML, we can use this one. We just use this one, and then you put our comment here. We write something, or you can use a shortcut by using control plus forward slash. Then you move on. That's how you can comment under that kind of the file. Okay. So now this is how you can add. What you call internal CSS. You can apply your internal CSS here. This is how you can implement what you call inline CSS. Okay, you can, by putting the style, you can implement what you call inline CSS. Also, we have an external CSS where you can go ahead and then do something else. So now let us have this one, and this kind of page. I wish to have some form that is going to help me to register certain user, because if we try to learn, if we save and then you go to the web browser, and then you just change from index to use the registration, exact registration, because that has been deployed the XHTML. You see this one, it has student registration as we speak. Those are the things we just added. Okay, now if we come here, if we come to the NetBean, this one, it is student registration. You can just see we just apply some styles here for text decoration. If we need a certain user to register, we need a form. Okay, we're going to use some what you call an XHTML. This comes from the JSF HTML tags. Okay, this one is what's called the component. Is going to be the component. The control itself is going to know exactly what to render, so that we know exactly if we need the control to control this kind of the different forms and the even validation and labels and so on. You have to use what you call the JSF component tags by using HTML. You can go ahead, when you say H, you can put X, you can put any kind of the name you wish, but the reason why I use the standard way for H, that means it responds to the what you call HTML, nothing else. Okay, I can come here if we wish to create a form. Let me say create a form. We use this kind of the tag. Let me comment this one. You use this one, just drag this way, put H and then double colon, then you say form. By putting form, exactly this one, you can put anything you wish for the form. Okay, another form, if we wish like to grab the to make sure, I mean to put the label, you can see if I say put the first name like this way, can it be automatically be displayed on the screen? Let us go ahead and then try to see if we try to refresh what's going to happen. You can see if I refresh, you can see I can be able to see the first name, but this one is like a label, but you cannot able to add those kind of the styles and so on. That's the reason why we need exactly the component, the JSF component that is responsible to add the labels. Okay, those kind of the component, let us write them here. Those are the components, some of component. Let us say JSF useful component. The just useful component, we can have what you call we need output labels and so on. We can have what you call H output label text and so on. And this kind of the output label text, we can put anything we wish. It can be enclosed by itself, and then it can be closed. You can move on. You can have also H, and then you can have input text and so on. We're going to see them to automatically under our NetBean. So if we wish to grab, I mean to use this one as the label automatically, we can just like this way, and then H, we say output label. We just have the output label, then close the tag, and then open this one that is going to be the closing tag of this one, and then you can say let me just put, then first name can be automatically found here. Okay, now this is how you can add the labels. Also we can add also if we need to grab the input from the user. The input can be divided into different parts. If we need like an end user to type like his name and so on, it's going to be the text. That means we need to use H, and then we specify input. You can see we have input text. This is how we can grab automatically the input. Okay, and then the input text then can be closed. Say you can see the user can go ahead and put something else within this kind of the input text, and then you can say always this nothing else. I'm going to show you what the name and so on, the value and so on, let alone that, but that's all what we have from here. So now if we just need first name, we can have, I'm going to just copy so that I can paste down here, and then we paste from here. We can have last name, and then the user will be able to put the last name. Also we just say we just need age. That means user will be able to put the age. You can see by now is the text. We're going to do the validation let alone. What if we need the password? Of course, for the password, I'm going to just copy the label only. For the password, you can come here. For the password, you say I do have password from here, and then you can come here. For this one now, we just use what you call input secret. This kind of the input secret, it is reserved only for what you mean for the password. Okay, for the input text, you just need some text value from the end user. For the input hidden, that means the file is not going to be hidden on the view. If we have certain value to be hidden on the view, though it's just there behind, we can use input hidden. We use input file when we want the user to choose a certain file from our web browser or certain elsewhere. So when we use text area, when the user should like to use like for example a certain web browser, we have a comment section where the user will be able to type more than one line. With that time we use what's called text area. So now for the password, we can have text secret. Okay, we can have text secret, nothing else, that's all. If we try to go and then we go to the web browser, we try to refresh the page, you can see we have first name, last name, age, password on the same line. Okay, we're going to do these things later on. What if now we need to make sure this form will be able to be submitted? Okay, what if we need this kind of the form to be submitted? Where is going to be submitted automatic? Actually, these things we're going to tackle it later on. But before, you need to know something. This form by default itself, it has what you call post method. It has post method. Previously under the recipe, we just make sure to provide exactly the method, either get, by default just get, and then you can change to post so that the parameter value will not be visible on the web browser. So but under the JSF, it has this kind of the capability. By default the method is post. Okay, now if we wish this kind of the form to be submitted, we just need to use this kind of the component called command button. This kind of the command button will be able to submit or send. It is same as the button that has type of submit under the form you just already know under the HTML. And then you can go ahead and specify the value. That means if you specify the value, it's going to be exactly the name to be displayed on the screen. You can say register please, and then you can cross our command by using / is going to be crossed automatically. There are two types of the tags. There are tag that cross itself. Also there are tag that need an crossing tag also. Okay, so now if we come here and the web browser, we try to refresh, you can see now we have button to register. If we register, you can see just send the data but just being holded, there's nothing there. You can see I can go ahead and type something, age. For the password, you can see it's the password because it cannot be seen. If I click register, you can see it holds data. This is the good thing of the controller. What do you need? It holds data for the validation. This is going to be the next part. We're going to know exactly what do you mean the validation. But before we move on, we need to make sure when the user click like on register, we need to send this data somewhere else. Okay, but if we need this kind of data to be sent somewhere else, we need a certain controller that need to grab this kind of data and send those data to certain elsewhere. So before we move on, there's something you need to note. If we really need to work on this one, we need what you call I think you do remember the picture we do have from here. If we have this kind of the controller, we need to have what called backing bean. We need the backing bean. This kind of backing bean is going to be just there to receive some information comes from our model, data comes from database, also data comes from our face rate, also data comes from controller and view. So those things going to be constructed together to the backing bean. So we need a class under Java that's going to be responsible to be a controller. Actually, we can say it's a controller, or we can say it's a backing bean, or it's going to be exactly bean. We can create a package called bean that's going to hold those kind of the information that are going to be saved to the database. By default now, we're not going to I'm going to, because we're just starting and then learning these things, we're going to come here, and then we're going to under the source package. You can see there's nothing here. We just have default package. So for the view, it's web page. We can have the model. Now let us have a folder called model, and then we're going to just implement other things later on. So let us have a model. This kind of model is responsible for what? It needs to access this data to be used. Here we go. We need to have what you call Java package. Let us have package called model. Then click finish. And this kind of the model is going to hold some information. So this kind of information, we need some information that's going to be okay. So as you've seen, there's we need the class that is responsible to hold those kind of data to be ready to be validated. You can see when we just try to send, It just being automatically comes on the class just we're working on. We just need to make sure before sending this data or to be saved data to the database, we need the controller to hold this kind of data and then validate them. After validation of them, it's going to send them automatically to the model. So I mean to the database or certain elsewhere. So let us try to do. That means in order to do things, we need what called bucket bean. This kind of big bucket bean. For the JSF, it uses what's called ManagedBean. So it helps, or it is just the use for it is just to hold the data before sending somewhere else to be ready for the validation. That means we need what you call, there's something you need to know. We need what you call with just this one. It is it is high import text. Also another one we just used, it is called command button. Should specify the value and so on. Okay, this is the one we just have used yet. Okay, now if we come here, what do we mean under the bucket? It's called bucket bean. Under the bucket bean, it uses what you call ManagedBean. Okay, it uses this kind of a class called ManagedBean, and then this kind of the ManagedBean, what they use for it? The ManagedBean they use for, as I said before, this kind of the ManagedBean, it is used, this one to use this one, but ManagedBean, we do like this way. It is used to hold the data and certainly all information for validation and so on, nothing else. It's to be validated by the controller, either by the controller or by the customized validation, nothing else. So then when we have this kind of the ManagedBean, what the properties all should respond, should say this ManagedBean. A ManagedBean, the first one should have what you call annotation called ManagedBean. Should have this kind of the annotation, should be imported from its fund, and I think under the javax dot something. I want to see the face rate and so on. I want to see exactly the class just found there. Also, not only that, also should contain what you call a constructor with no argument. Okay, what do you mean constructor with no argument? Actually, the constructor with argument, those are the default constructor, the public class and so on. Okay, so also it should have what you call getter and setters. Nothing else. This is the things, the more things the ManagedBean should have. Otherwise, nothing else. Okay. So what do you need getters and setters? We need getters when we need to get data to be displayed in a form. What do you mean setters? We need to setters to set certain data to be found under this kind of file and then be visible somewhere else. So here we go. We're going to create a ManagedBean class, or going to call it student, and then to see what's going to be used for it. Okay, here we go. Let's go to the NetBean. Let us create a class here. We're going to create a class, Java class, of course. We need the Java class to be under the model. We're going to have Java class. Let's have Java class just here. And then we're going to be always class should start with capital letter, okay? It's going to be student because it have a meaningful words, okay? After that, hit finish. And then this kind of the student, should contain the first step, because it's going to be ManagedBean class. That means it has to have what you call annotation. The class should not need to put what you call add annotation here, okay? So we just need to add the annotation here, just add, and then say manage, then use control space. By using control space, it's going to try to give is going to filter them, the result or the response, depends on what we need. You can see we do have two types of javax.annotation. We have javax.faces.bean. This one we need to use javax.faces.bean because we are using JSF. Because this of the javax.annotation is another thing else. It's being used in HDB. So let us leave it right now. So what that means, we need the ManagedBean. Double click on this one. It's going to be imported automatically. By using control space, it saves time, it saves you for not going to import each and everything. Okay, after this one, we say ManagedBean should have what you call a constructor with no argument. Okay, I'm not going to do anything else, but before, the student, as we do have on a form, we have the first name, last name, age, and password. That means under the student, we just need to have private string. What do you mean private? I'm going to explain this one. Let us have private string, have first name, always a variable should start small letter. Okay, also we have private string, last name. Also we have private string, I mean the age is going to be integer, int. You can use integer or int. When you say integer, okay, I'll show you the difference between let alone. Let us have integer, we say age. Also let us have private string password. Let us have string password. We've done like this way. And then before we continue, I'm going to show you what do you mean private. So the private, this is what you call access modifier. This is what you call access modifier. This implemented under the property called encapsulation. Encapsulation. What do you mean under encapsulation? Under the encapsulation, that's where you found everything. So for the encapsulation, that means we need what? It's just nothing else to make our class either to be. I mean, if we need to encapsulate something, what do you mean encapsulate? To cover, to protect something. So that means if we need certain class to be protected, that means cannot be accessed outside of the class. So here we go. So that means we have 4 levels of encapsulation. We have what's called default. Also we have private. We have public. Also we have protected. Those are the most protected. So what do you mean default? This default can be accessed. I mean, like if we have like a class and its object, if they are being declared like default, that means what do you mean default? There's nothing at all. I mean, there's the default. We don't put anything. We don't put anything else. I mean, when we say it's a public or default, the default can be accessed by the class, either the class object and so on, the method and the variables can be accessed by the class that are the same package or in the same folder. So, but for the private, that means the access of certain variables, I mean the variables can be accessed inside the class only, inside the class. Like for example, those kind of the first numbers can be used inside the class, cannot be used outside of the class. Okay, so that means when we need this kind of the private to be accessed outside, we need to generate those kind of the getters and setters, nothing else. What do you mean public? That means if the class is public, can be accessed wherever at all. Either different package and this can be accessed without any kind of the protection. So what do you mean now protected? When we insert and then say a certain variable or class or method can be protected, that means can it be accessed by its subclass. What do you mean subclasses? Like there are certain classes where you find out it extends something. A class extend. That means if a class extend, can now access the protected value, nothing else. That's all you need to know. Okay, so let us back here, and then if we're going, the first step, we just need to make sure you just generate constructor with no arguments, okay, or parameters, okay, without parameters. Now we can go here and then try to go insert code, and then you can right click insert code. You can generate the constructor and the constructor. You can choose automatically. If we select all of them, that means we just need all of them, okay? But we say the class of ManagedBean should be calculated by the constructor without any argument. That means we need to select none, okay? And then generate. These are constructor without anything. After this one, you need to generate getter and setters. So how can we generate getters and setters? Just come here, you go to insert, and then again you just go to the getters and setters, and then you generate, you select all of them together, then you generate, you're done. That's how we create this kind of the class, and then we save. And this is what we call the managed bean. Now, when we try to come back to the class called registration.html, we need to make sure this kind of, because the controller by itself, it has capability to validate if the file has been provided. It depends on the data type of the file, okay? For example, we need exactly to specify some data under this one, under the input text, under the, you can see we have closing tag of this one and this one. It is just on the same level, but we just under this one, that's where we're going to put what we need, anything else, okay? So we need a value, this kind of the value. So we need to set this data to be inside of that kind of the variable we have created by using our managed bean. So in order to access that kind of the, or to use that kind of the variables, we do what we call hashtag and then put curly braces, and then I can use exactly the name of the class. My managed bean is called student, but this kind of the class starts with the capital letter, but we use small letters here. So that means we use student, and then if I hit dot, I'll be able to access age, first name, last name, and password. You can see I'm able to set, but just come here, just choose first name. You know what? The control will know exactly that if we just submit, it's going to know exactly I need to set. And it's going to know exactly it is set. It's going to need to set the data, nothing else. Okay. So good. Now let us come here. Not on this one. Let us have value, all of them together. Sorry, validator not now. Let us have value, and then it say it's going to be the same process. We're going to say student dot last name, make sure, and then let us go to the age. Under the input text, the value is going to be come from the same process. We say student dot age. Then lastly, this one is going to be value, and then you say like this way, and then student dot password. Now we save. Now if we try to save and then try to execute, what's going to happen? Of course, we don't have where to send this kind of data. I would just like to wait. Let us create a file that is going to grab this kind of the information. That means if we set certain data, we need those data to be grabbed. So we can come here on the web page. We can say, let's click on this one. We can have a new JSF page. JSF page, we call it confirmation. Let us call it confirmation, and then click finish. Okay, don't put any kind of extension. This one is not exactly put its own extension. Click finish. You can see we do have this one. Let me just change the title to be confirmation page, and then you can come here. Let us use the h1 tag, and then we say thank you for registering. We just need to make sure wherever the user has saved, we need this one to be saved. Okay, we can say dear. This way we're going to put some names. Thank you for registering. Okay, and then I'm going to show you what's going to happen. We need to come here to the registration. We just need to put exactly under the command port. We say just put the value register, but we need to specify exactly where to send this kind of the data. We need when we submit form, we just need this kind of the form to call the confirmation.html to be displayed after. Okay, we can come here in order to disallow any kind of the typo error. We can come here, like if you wish to name like refactor as you wish to, you can use Ctrl+R, and then you can come here, you select everything, and then you come here, you put not value, it is action, and then you select this. We don't put any kind of the extension, just if we know exactly that it has .html. Now let us back here on our page. Let us try to refresh to see what's going to happen. Let us do continue. You can see under the age we have 0 by default. It's fine. When you click register, what's going to happen? You can see it's just calling other page called dear. So we're going to put some name. Thank you for registering. Now let us back on this kind of the class. Let us put some names from here. Let us put some names. Let us put like this way, blah blah blah, and then password, and then click register. You can see just sending data, but this we just implement what we call setters. but we didn't implement what you call where to grab this kind of data. That being said, I mean, we need that we set the data. We need to now to get this data to be displayed on this kind of the class. Nothing else. We good. Let us back to the NetBean project here. Under our confirmation page, let us go to the confirmation page. Let us say if we didn't need to access this kind of data, the way we used to set is the same as the way we used to grab the data. We just put hashtag and then put like this way. It says student dot exactly say first name, for example. It's going to know exactly that we just need to get. You don't have to serve. The control will do everything behind the scene. Thank you for registering. Let us say your password is, for example, can automatically add this one. Can say student dot password. Your password is this one, nothing else. Okay. Now, if we try to come here, let us back to this one. Let us go to the web browser. Let us back here. Let us try to refresh the page. Let us refresh the page. And then you put some name. Let me put my name here. Say test. And then put age. And then you say, for example, set this kind of the password. Let's say web add the password. Then you click register. What's going to happen? You can see there's a thank you for registering your password is web. The same thing we just implemented it from here. This how this thing is just is able to know exactly to set the data, is not exact to get the data, and then nothing else. Okay, nothing else. But before I move on, I want to show the error that can happen so that you don't have this kind of the error in the future. So if I come here, I want to show something. If I come here under my registration, you can see under the value we do have this one. If I come here, I put space here. What's going to happen? There's sometimes you can put a space when you don't know. Then when you try to save, and then let us come here under the control. Let us back here. Let us refresh our page. Let us refresh. You see, we have refreshed. Now, if we try to put some data, let us say test student, and then put some password. Then you click register. You can see there are certain things illegal syntax for set operation because we just add some the space after the value. This note is not allowed, please. It's not allowed. You can see the able specify that there's certain space here. Just come here, just remove it. After remove it, then the issue has been resolved. Then you save, then issue has been resolved. Actually, the issue has been resolved. We're good now. That time you can see it after resolving, then issue has been resolved. That's all what you need to know right now. We have just covered the some steps we have covered by now on. We just covered what do you mean, how we can create, and the model we create student Java. We call the ManagedBean class able to get and set data, and those kind of the data has been able after submitting those kind of data has sent to the confirmation page where you just have student first name and so on. This data has been sent somewhere else. So now in the next part, we are just now going to deal with how you can see we have this kind of data, but we need this kind of data to be saved to the database. That's all, nothing else. Okay. But before we continue, you just need to know that this kind of the encapsulation, private and so on. As ManagedBean is being characterized by constructive no argument, getters and setters. Also, we just said is ManagedBean is just responsible to hold the data, nothing else. You just need to know these things because it's going to be helpful to you, because otherwise you're going to mess up. So that means ManagedBean is it help you to hold the data and for the validation. That means for the next part, before we save data to the database, let us go for the validations, and then after the validation part, we move on to save data to the database. So thank you all. See you in the next part. Thank you.